Are you struggling to get into a practice of meditation? You've heard the research, you've heard the science. You know it's great for you. Meditation reduces anxiety and improves mood, and it calms the soul. It's also got a pretty powerful effect on depression. But this picture of a perfect posture, laser-focused meditation without thought, this seems unattainable to you. Look, I get it. So let's talk about 5 alternatives to meditation.
Welcome to the Evolve Podcast. Evolve your body, evolve your mind, evolve your soul, and evolve your tribe. And now it's time to disrupt.
And with that, folks, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Evolve Podcast. I am your host, Steve Cutler, and today I want to talk to you about 5 alternatives to meditation. Before we get started, I want to thank you for listening to the Evolve Podcast. You see, the Evolve Podcast is part of our passion to provide no-cost consumer content that will help you disrupt and evolve into your highest self. As a coach, consultant, and speaker for over 2 decades, I know the power and value in having a coach and a tribe around you to help you create clarity, consistency, and accountability. With that in mind, I want to remind you that we offer one-on-one fitness coaching to help you evolve into your best self. In addition to the one-on-one coaching, our flagship product, the Evolve Coaching Mastermind, is for men and women who want the most out of their life. They are above the fold, men and women, fathers, mothers, leaders, and decision makers in business. They're driven, successful in one or more areas of life, but they haven't quite mastered the 4 tenets of evolving their body, mind, soul, and tribe. For more information about our coaching, please click the link in the show notes, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. And now on to the show. Are you struggling to get into a practice of meditation? You've heard the research, you've heard the science, and you know it's good for you. Anxiety, depression, mood, all of these things are improved with meditation. But again, that picture of a perfect posture while you're sitting there mindless and feeling this great Zen state just doesn't seem attainable. So let's talk about 5 alternatives to meditation. Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about why you might be struggling to get into your meditation practice first. And I would say number 1 is you tell yourself that you don't have time. Number 2, you think that meditation should be a mindless activity. Number 3, you think that there is a perfect posture or a perfect way to sit and look while you're meditating. And finally, number 4, you failed to meditate for the 20 minutes that you carved out for yourself and you got bored and walked away after 5. So let's talk about each one. Number 1, you tell yourself you don't have time. And I'm going to be honest with you guys right now. This is the laziest and easiest excuse that you can come up with. Get creative. If you're going to make an excuse, for heaven's sakes, make it something that's creative. Of course, you have time to meditate. Everyone has 5 minutes. Cut out the extra Netflix. Cut out the extra social media time. Set your alarm for 5 minutes earlier. Whatever it takes, you can do 5 minutes of meditation. Don't just fall into this trap of saying you don't have time when there's something in your life to accomplish. Everyone can carve out 5 minutes of their day to do something. And meditation is no different. Second, you think that meditation is a mindless activity. I can't meditate because my mind keeps racing. Of course it does. Everyone's mind does. Meditation isn't about getting rid of thought. Meditation is about coming back to that place of calmness, coming back to that place of stillness regularly and gently when you get off focus. You see, one of the things I've learned over the time that I've been meditating from many, many wonderful mentors that I've had is that it's not about the mindlessness. It's about that when the mind wanders like it tends to do, or when it wants to jump on that horse and go for a ride, whatever the thought is, that you gently bring it back. You see, what you're doing is training your nervous system to come back to stillness, to come back to calmness, to come back to mindfulness. So again, it's not a mindful or mindless activity. It's about being mindful and coming back to that sense of stillness. Third, you think that you have to look a certain way. You have to have the perfect pants. Your hair's got to be in a man bun, and you have to sit with perfect posture. There are so many different ways to meditate. You don't have to have some sort of perfect posture. You don't even have to sit. You can sit, you can stand, you can walk, lie down. It doesn't really matter. It's just whatever works best for you. I've got a client that every morning when she wakes up, she goes through this meditation practice and she does it immediately after waking up. Flips on her meditation app, lays there in her bed, sprawls out, and goes through her deep breathing and mindfulness practice right there. It doesn't matter. There is not a perfect posture. You don't have to have the perfect yoga pants, man bun, or your makeup done. You can do it in whatever way you need to show up. Finally, you failed to meditate for 20 minutes and decided it's not for you. Well, guess what? Meditation is hard, especially when you start. 5 minutes of focused work is difficult for anyone right now. 20 minutes? No way. I've seen too many people start with aspirations to meditate for too long at the beginning. Start small. Set a timer for a minute. And over time, work it up to 2. Maybe 5 minutes at the most at the very beginning, but I wouldn't go beyond that. Meditation trains your mind to be focused. Meditation trains your mind to gently and calmly come back to a state of mindfulness. But you're not going to go from your unfocused monkey mind to a Zen state within 20 minutes. In fact, my experience and quite a bit of research out there shows that it takes over 20 minutes to where you get into deep work. But you can get massive benefits by starting small. So don't think that you have to have this full 20 plus minutes of meditation in order for it to be an effective session. Start with 1 minute and build up over time. But if you don't want to go through traditional meditation, today's episode is about 5 ways that you can meditate without meditating. 5 alternatives. So here we go. Number 1, go for a walk. And I'm not talking about just getting on a treadmill and walking. I'm talking about get outside. Wherever you live, get out. Go to a park. Walk around the block. There is an extremely powerful benefit to walking in nature, walking around your neighborhood, and breathing. And one of the most important things that you do while you're out for your walk, if you're substituting meditation or walking for meditation, is make sure that you keep your mouth closed and your nose breathing. Nose breathing while you're walking helps to stimulate the parasympathetic portion of the nervous system, which is the part of the nervous system that is rest and recovery. Getting in a 20-minute walk can do wonders for your overall reduction in anxiety, reduction in depression, reduction in that feeling like you have to go, go, go. So number 1, alternative for meditation is breathe through your nose while you go for a walk. Number 2, practice slow walking. Slow walking is something that I learned several years ago through an instructor that was teaching me Tai Chi and a different form of meditation. And I fell in love with this. I actually found a mentor that took me a little bit deeper afterwards. Slow walking is where you walk out onto some sort of grass or dirt and you walk as slowly as possible. Now, I know that sounds really weird, so you may not want to do this around other people. I'll go to the park in the morning in the summertime and I'll see people doing Tai Chi or doing slow walking. Slow walking just means that you keep a cadence of breathing and you literally walk as slow as possible. Imagine a sloth moving and they're barely picking up their leg, barely putting the heel down, barely rocking forward onto the balls of the feet. Slow walking helps to stimulate, again, that parasympathetic nervous system. And it also starts to train into your tonic muscle fibers. You see, the body has essentially two types of muscle fibers, and we won't get into too much of the physiology today, but you have tonic and phasic. Tonic muscle fibers are the postural fibers. They tend to have more stability work in the body. They tend to give us posture. The phasic muscle fibers, or sometimes they're called type 2 muscle fibers, those are the fibers that move us quickly through life. But when you're doing slow walking, you're stimulating more of those tonic fibers for posture and stability. Slow walking is an extremely intentional practice and can be a great alternative to regular meditation. Number 3, I know I'm going to blow your mind with this one because it flies in the face of the apps that you use to order your food or to drive down the street and go to the restaurant because you don't want to do this one. But one of the best alternatives to meditation is to make your own food. Learn a recipe. Learn how to do a few things. Learn how to cook it the right way. If you don't know where to start, pick up a cookbook and just practice. If you don't know where to start, have a friend come over you and teach you what their favorite recipe is. If you don't know where to start, go to Masterclass and sign up and watch Gordon Ramsay's Masterclass on how to make a great steak. It doesn't matter. Just do one thing. Recently, my son wanted to learn how to make more of his own food. And so we started out with, how does he make his burger? He loves going out with his friends to go to the fast food restaurants and get burgers. And I let him know that over time, that is going to wear his body down. All of the stuff that he's putting into his body from those fast food restaurants is going to wear him down over time. And I said, how about we look at an alternative? Let me teach you how to make the burgers at home. His eyes lit up. He said, Dad, I love the burgers that we make at home. So much better. They've got more flavor. They've got more spice to them. I love it. And so we did a time together where we walked through how to make a burger. We've done the same thing with making several other dishes. That kid comes home from work every single day now, pulls the pan out and starts making a burger for himself. And instead of hitting that fast food restaurant that he may have gone and hit with his friends, he's coming home and making his own food. Cooking your own food is a meditative practice, but like any other meditation, you have to get good at it. You have to have some time. Learn how to cook 2, 3, 4, 5 different meals that are beautiful, that taste amazing. And I guarantee you are going to get into a meditative state once you start to cook your own food. Number 4, pull out that pen, that piece of paper, get the pencil out, pull out the paint or the paint brushes, doodle, draw, sketch, or create some sort of art. Now, before you go into your excuse that just popped up into your head, I'm not an artist, Steve. I don't draw. Every single person in the world has creative powers. Every single person has creativity, even if it's in embryo form inside of you. You have the ability to create. I'm not saying create a masterpiece. I am not telling you to go out and paint the next Mona Lisa or to sculpt the next David. All I'm saying is pull out a piece of paper, pull out a pen, a pencil, and just doodle. Let your hand move across the paper, draw something, sketch something, or create some sort of art. You see, what happens when you do this is you start to tap into the creative centers of the brain. When you're tapping into the creative centers of the brain, you are not focused on the task center of the brain. When you are drawing, when you are doodling, you are tapping into your creativity, which is a very meditative practice. It is extremely difficult to sit there with massive anxiety, thinking about all of the things that you need to get done when the pen is touching the paper and you are doodling. One of the most important things with this is don't judge what you're creating. No one cares. No one is going to look at it. This is just a meditative practice. Play with it. Have fun. And you'll find that your creativity and your ability to be creative over time will continue to rise. Finally, number 5, stretch. Flexibility in life, mobility in life. When you look at old people, what makes them old is not their age. What makes them old is the way they move. I had a conversation recently with someone that will be coming on to our podcast, and she made the most beautiful observation. She said, Steve, the reason why I have this, what I call body philosophy, the reason why I make sure that my clients and I stretch daily and regularly is beautiful movement is youthful movement. Youthful movement is created through flexibility. So get some time, mobilize, stretch, take care of your tissue. This is a great way to meditate. This is a great alternative to meditation. You don't even need to go to a yoga class. Just pick a few stretches and get into them. There are so many options. If you want to take yoga, if you want to learn more about yoga, go back through our episodes. We've got several yogis that have been on here. If you want to learn how to stretch, to mobilize, to get out of pain, check out our episodes with Vinny Crispino and the Pain Academy. Vinny's got amazing content that will help you to get into a meditative state through mobilizing and stretching. Well, as you can imagine, I've got a bonus tip for you. But before we get to that, let's go back over the 5 ways, the 5 alternatives to meditation. The 5 ways you can meditate without meditating are: number 1, go for a walk. Number 2, practice slow walking. Number 3, cook food. Number 4, doodle, draw, sketch, or create art. And number 5, stretch. So here's the bonus tip. The one extra tip on how to meditate without meditating. It's going to sound weird at first, but practice alternate nostril breathing. Now, this is a technique that a mentor taught me probably 20 years ago, and I thought it was some hokey practice until I actually did it. When you are feeling a sense of extra stress, extra anxiety, extra frustration, whatever it is, here's a simple tip. Take your finger and place it over one of your nostrils. Take several deep breaths through that nostril. Do the same thing on the other side. So let's say you're doing 5 to 10 repetitions on one side and then the other side. There are pathways in the body that will help to stimulate and calm you down. This helps to balance the brain. This helps to calm the nervous system in ways I can't even begin to describe. It is one of the weirdest practices that I am ever going to tell you to do, but it is also extremely effective. Practice alternating your nostril breathing by closing one off. Do this for about a minute or 2, and you will notice a difference. And it will be a very almost post-exercise meditative process, meaning that after you've done this particular exercise, this particular practice, you will feel the benefits after, not necessarily during, but after. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, you'll notice a difference as your brain and your body reset. So there's your bonus tip. Practice alternate nostril breathing. There you have it, folks. 5 ways to meditate without meditating, 5 alternatives to standard meditation practices. And on that note, it's time for us to wrap up another episode of the Evolve Podcast. I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us for another episode of the Evolve Podcast. I am Steve Cutler, reminding you that it takes time and consistency to evolve. But first, you have to disrupt. And now it's time for you to get out there and evolve.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Evolve Podcast. Follow us on your favorite podcast app, and if you haven't done so, please give us a rating. As an independent podcast, it really helps us get more reach. This podcast is part of our mission to help millions of people evolve into the best versions of themselves. Please check out our coaching services at evolve-cast.com or pick up some of our Evolve merch. Until next time, keep evolving.